Hey there pilots, welcome to TitanTime, Dan here, and today let's take a look at how to start goosing pilots with tone. Now, as Rich said in his previous video, getting goosers is probably the most satisfying moment you can get in Titanfall 2. And from some of your comments, a fair few of you pilots have been wondering how to goose with tone. So here's my best advice on getting goosers with tone, starting with the setup. First of all, let's start with map awareness. Now, Rich will be the first one to point out that in my eagerness to get goosers, I can on occasion ignore everything going on around me just to aim up into the sky waiting for that pilot, leaving me vulnerable to everything from nuclear eject, rodeos, and flanking titans. Getting goosers usually is more about the setup than sheer aiming skill, and there's nothing worse than being mowed down by Ion's laser core that you totally didn't notice because you were looking up at the sky. As satisfying as goosing a pilot is, it's not worth completely losing your Titan for, meaning not only do you lose your Titan, but also lose it for your teammates. But for you one pilot wonders out there, there's a selfish reason as well as to why you don't want to be getting shot at while you're goosing. And that's because as your Titan gets hit, it will make you flinch and throw your aim off, making those goosers harder to get. So there's no enemy Titans close by and you're about to doom an enemy Titan. The next thing to consider is positioning. Being close up to a Titan as they eject not only leaves you vulnerable to their nuclear eject if they have it equipped, but also makes the angle for goosing more difficult, as the pilot will be going straight up and over your head. For tone in particular, I find it best to be around medium range when dooming a Titan, giving you enough time to aim up and wait for the pilot to launch into the air. The pilot will still be a fairly decent sized target, especially when compared to being at long range, making it an easier target to track. Also, when you're dooming a Titan, you want to be aware of how many rounds you have left in your magazine, as you don't want to be reloading as they eject. Personally, I'd advise reloading once you have achieved your 3 locks so you can finish them off with a rocket burst whilst reloading at the same time. Another thing to consider, no matter what firefight you're currently in, listening out for the ejection sound is critical to catching pilots unaware, as you can see in this clip. I heard the ejection sequence at a distance, looked up to see if it was a friendly or enemy pilot, and took the shot. If I hadn't have been listening out, I would not have noticed this pilot ejecting from the position I was in, so sound is also a huge factor when it comes to goosers. So you've done all that, the conditions are perfect, but no matter what you do, you just can't hit that pilot with your 40mm, leaving you firing as quickly as you can into the air to try and hit them. And this is the part that is most difficult with tone, as your 40mm rounds are projectile based, meaning that the only time you'll goose pilots with them directly in your crosshairs is when they're at the peak of their ejection height. This gives you enough time to get your crosshairs over the target and fire before they start to fall from the sky. So if you're getting frustrated at your shots missing, start to use this method to get those goosers. Now for probably the most difficult part to explain, getting goosers when the pilots are moving quickly. To do this, I'm going to slow down some clips and try and explain where you should be aiming when a pilot is going up and coming down. It is critical to aim where the pilot is going to be and not where they are. Essentially, you need the pilot to travel into your bullet. So when the pilot is going up, you want to aim your shot above them like so, and when they're coming down, you want to aim below them. The problem here is that the timings will change slightly depending on distance. The further the pilot is, the higher you'll need to aim to compensate for the travel time of your 40mm round. The other thing to remember is to not get frustrated when trying to goose with tone. If your bullets aren't hitting, don't just spam the fire button because it's more than likely that your aiming arc is off. Give yourself a second to readjust it and try again. If you don't goose them in the first 2 bullets, it's most likely that the other 5 won't hit them either. And to be honest, the trick really is just to keep trying, and eventually it will become muscle memory as to where to aim. You don't need to do a complicated equation like BT every time he throws Jack Cooper.
Wind 3 knots, heading 274, range 95 meters, projectile mass 89 kilograms.
Enemy pilot destroyed.
You'll know this when you start to hit pilots just as they eject, even when they cloak. And what about rocket salvo for goosing? Well, this is overkill to say the least, but it is possible. The main problem with using rocket salvo to kill an ejecting pilot is ideally they need to be somewhere near a building or a physical object in order for your rockets to track where you're aiming. Shooting your rockets into the air makes it hard to judge the distance, as you will have to keep your crosshairs on the pilot, and by the time your rockets reach them, they will have already changed position. So try it by all means, I'm sure you might get 1 or 2, but I'd save your salvo core for those legions out there. Now please don't think for a second that you should be hitting every single gooser ever. Even the really good players don't hit their target every time, and for every awesome shot you get, there will be plenty more where you completely miss it and mess it up, and that is perfectly normal. If you were to hit every time, then goosers just wouldn't feel as awesome as they do. Anyway guys, let us know how you pilots are getting on with your goosers, and if you want us to cover any other titans for goosing. Thanks again for watching, hope this helped, and we'll catch you next time.